are important too. And we had a whole crew of young people dying to be police officers. And we had, and we were aggressive, we were high speed, and one day Sharon Henry comes in. If anybody remembers Sharon Henry, she comes in and she says, "Wait a minute, I think all you guys in here is, everybody in here has an outlet." And it kind of just stopped the room. Everybody here is going to be somebody's neighbor someday. Everybody here has a chance to be productive. You may not be productive right now, but you don't want to be the reason that they're not productive for the rest of their life. And that stuck with me. And I've tried to do that throughout my career. And I've been a street officer. I've been an investigator for 13 years. I was in narcotics. I got to develop policy, and that was interesting. And now I would like to develop policy. And I would like to change some things that we have wrong with our system right now. And I think it starts with giving those people who are incarcerated support that they need. And Sean is a great example of this. A lot of those people who are in jail right now don't have a support system. They have chemical dependency issues. And if I were sheriff, I would push for programs all day, every day, for everybody in that jail to give them hope, to give them a reason to go out and be a productive member of society. So, through my experience as a SR, who I've been able to stay in contact with kids, to see, to impart on them the hope of the future. I've been in investigations where I got to learn about not only the person that was putting in jail and investigating a crime that they committed, I also got to know the victim. And we have a lot of victims in Connersville, and they need to be heard too. And a lot of times police officers go take care of the problem and be done with it. Well, I would like to impart a little bit of personal contact in my administration that those police officers can recognize the damage that's done to a victim. Be a little more personal than what we've seen in the past. I think I can bring that to the office. Otherwise, I want to be, other than that, I want to be someone who can lead this department into the future, knowing that we have the problems that we have in the conflict. And I have a number of ways we can fight that. We've been doing it for years, but maybe not to the extent we could. So with that, I appreciate your support in November. Be looking forward to these questions that we have. I asked for a few softball questions. I don't think we're going to get it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McDermott, the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate. I'm running against Todd Young in November, and I'm excited about that. I got one person happy for me anyway. I know one thing. I'm really good at being mayor. I've been mayor. I've been elected and re-elected 5 times. It's not because, it's because I do my job very well. When people come into my office and ask for help, I don't ask them who they voted for in the last presidential election. I don't ask them their political philosophy. I fill the pothole, or I fix the problem with their neighbor, or the zoning issue. It's a real novel idea, right? I don't understand why, when you raise your right hand and you become a U.S. Senator, suddenly you don't have to show up to town halls anymore. They were invited here. Senator Young was invited here. He's invited on every stop of this tour. We've gone all around the state of Indiana. This is one. I think we have one more stop after this. Every stop on the tour, the Libertarian Party shows up, the Democratic Party shows up, and the Republican Party sticks every single event. Every single event. Is that the kind of government you want? Because it's about money raising with them, and it's not about constituent service. The fact is, Todd Young could be here right now. And we can talk amongst each other and debate the arguments of the day, and you would get a very good idea about who's running against who. Instead, Todd Young has $5 million, and he thinks, that's all I need. I got $5 million. Why would I drive to Connersville? I got $5 million. Why would I bother to talk to Hoosiers? I don't need to talk to Hoosiers. I have $5 million. If I had that attitude as the mayor of Hammond, I would have gone in 2004. They would have voted me out of office. And I tell you what, I'm going to take. So when I asked, and I'm asked every time, why are you running for U.S. Senate? It's obvious that things aren't going well in America right now. The price of gas is as low as I've seen it in Connersville. It's less than $5. We make it where I live, and it's $5.50 there. All right? Inflation's out of control. The price of gas is high. People are frustrated with what's going on with our public safety, with our safety. People are frustrated about the U.S. Supreme Court. I got a reminder for you. Todd Young has been in Washington, D.C. for 12 years. He's going to try to blame me for inflation because I'm a Democrat. He's going to try to blame me for the price of gas because I'm a Democrat. I'm the mayor of Hammond. I have nothing to do with the price of gas. What has our senator done to lower the price of gas? Nothing. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to lower the price of gas, ladies and gentlemen. He wants it to stay high so that he can point at President Biden and say, look at what a lousy job he's doing. And he's been there for 12 years, and he's done nothing to make our life better. He's done nothing to lower the cost of gas. He's done nothing to address the inflation problem. He's going to need $5 million, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not going to shut up. I drove 3.5 hours to get here to talk to you, and I tell you what, I want to leave an imprint on you. And I had a great ticket. I'm super honored to be running with Jessica, and you're going to hear from her in a second. She's running for treasurer. We got Zendaya, who's running for auditor. And we have Destiny, who's running for Secretary of State. I screwed up the ticket. I'm the only man on the whole ticket. But I'm honored. If you look at our ticket, it's diverse. It's diverse in a lot of ways, but it's also diverse across the state of Indiana. We covered a lot of territory. It's a ticket I'm proud of. It's a ticket I'm looking forward to winning with. And I'm very proud of myself for driving 3.5 hours because I volunteered to run for U.S. Senate. I didn't get drafted. I volunteered. And I knew if I ran for U.S. Senate, I'm going to have to drive all over the state of Indiana and sell my case. We need to send Todd Young that memo. You're a U.S. Senator. Connersville's important. Fan County's important. Get your butt out there and campaign, Todd. And if you don't want to, we need to remind you in November, you're the boss. Not the NRA, not as big money donors. You are the boss. And you need to fire Todd Young in November. God bless you guys. I look forward to it.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica McClellan. I am a gay Midwestern mom who running for treasurer of the state of Indiana. I am currently the treasurer of Monroe County. I've been serving there for 2 terms, and I'm also the vice president of the Indiana County Treasurers Association. Since I've been in office for the last 6 years, I've been modernizing my office by implementing new technology that scans payments and offering new training to our staff so we can have faster processing time for our payments and our audits are a lot better. I've increased investment income from Monroe County by working with a financial advisor and investing in U.S. Treasury bonds for the first time in Monroe County. And I also enhanced customer service to our taxpayers by implementing a website that has live data of people's property taxes and information about their property. So I'm very, very excited to run for treasurer of state. I work very closely with the units in Monroe County to give them their property tax information and their distribution, like the schools and libraries, twice a year so that they know how much money they're going to get and when they're going to get it. I think that the state treasurer's office isn't a very sexy office, and the things that are going to make that office shine are not the very sexy things that we talk about and hear about on the news and we hear about in Washington. It's things like good customer service. It's things like the state treasurer reaching out all across 92 counties, the way I reached out in Monroe County to the schools and to the library and to the cities to make sure they had the information that they needed about their tax fund, their funding from taxes to make decisions for the local units of government. I'm really excited to join the treasurer's office and work on things like enhancing our college savings plan. We have a really good program in Indiana that giving people to don't have bank accounts that meet their needs, and it's really affecting the financial security of our friends and family and loved ones. The Treasurer's Office can work with communities and banks to make sure that everybody has the resources that they need. So lastly, I want to tell you that representation matters. I am part of the LGBTQ community, and as a survivor of domestic violence and homelessness, I want everyone across the Hoosier state to know that I'm working to make a better future for all Hoosiers. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Cindy Worth. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in the 6th District. I'm a mom, I'm a scientist, I'm a first-generation college graduate, and I'm a teacher, as Tim told us. The thing about teachers is teachers have to show up, right? Teachers have to show up. So I'm a teacher. I'll show up. I think that's something that should be expected of all of our elected officials, and it's something that doesn't always happen. So I have a shoe leather campaign, and these Birkenstocks will walk a lot of miles, and will chart how many times I replace them because I'm going to show up. And I have been showing up. In fact, a couple weeks ago, a guy tracked me down at the county fair and said, "I heard you showed up." And I was like, "I'm here." And he says, "Will you come to my farm?" And I said, "Absolutely, because we're planting in the morning." And I said, "I'll be there." So I was there. Actually, they had a broken plow, so they couldn't do something. But we actually stood in the rain and we looked at the rest of the operation. But I'll show up, and I think that's what's important. And the other piece of that showing up, and something I'm going to ask all of you is really important, is if we're not satisfied, we have power at the voting booth. And that power in the voting booth means we need to drag our friends. And so when we see people out there and say, "Hey, how you doing?" The next part of that until November 8th needs to be, what's your plan to vote? Can we go together? Can I babysit? Can I drive you there? Do you need help getting in? Do you need help filling out that absentee ballot? Those are the things that we need to do to work together. We're all from the local, small communities. We all come in the same way that we need to keep taking care of each other, and we need to do that again. Because we've kind of let other people take control of us until we band back together and really get back to our community and supporting each other again, which we do. Let's do it at the voting booth. So that's kind of all I have to say. But I want to leave you with this. I'm also an anthropologist, and science and biologist and anthropologist. So I'll leave you with words that I know you know from my favorite anthropologist. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That's Margaret Mead. So together, we can do this.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out. This time all about you and hearing from your voice. We need to have these discussions over tabletops where we can come up with solutions. I'm James Sceniak, and I'm your Libertarian candidate for the U.S. Senate race, and I do appreciate you being here. These town halls are essential. The Republicans call them absurd, but that's because they don't want to hear from you. They don't want to represent Hoosiers. We can all agree here that Todd Young is not the person that's representing Hoosiers. He has failed Hoosier voices on both the right and the left side. It's time we have a change in Washington, D.C. that represents you. And that's why I think these town halls are a priority. My fresh modern approach is full of solutions that will benefit all of Hoosiers. My Bag Care program is designated to help veterans across Indiana and all America to get the medical care that they need. This is a libertarian solution that allows veterans to have freedom within their medical care. We sent veterans overseas and trusted them with our freedoms to fight valiantly for our freedoms. And yet, when they come back, we don't give them the care that they need. We failed them. We don't trust them with their own medical decisions. We force them to go through red tape after red tape, through paperwork that's mindless and useless, and we don't give them the freedom. My Bag Care program gives them the freedom to go to whatever physician best meets their needs, and it allows them to cut out the VA, and it allows them to go whatever location is most convenient for them. It's time to step up and serve our veterans well. My next policy is my medical sanity, or my fiscal sanity. Right now, Washington doesn't represent your wallet. We've seen inflation rates higher than, it's been a while since they've been as high as they are right now. And that is directly because of Todd Young spending. We need a difference in Washington. We need someone who represents our dollar and isn't about serving Washington's wasteful agenda. We need someone who wants to serve you. And lastly, my medical freedom program is something that we all need to get on board. Politicians should not act as physicians. They've tried to make decisions for us in Washington, D.C. that is intrusive and that does not benefit you. Every medical decision that you make for your body should be yours alone, along with whatever physician you choose and trust in. Politicians need to stay out of those decisions. We need more freedom and less intrusion, and I'm here to stand up for your rights. We can all agree that Todd Young's not the right voice. I can talk about I'm a lifelong Hoosier, and I'm a behavior therapist, and I want to serve. But really, this position is about you. I have to hear from you in order to serve you. So thanks again for coming out. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to these questions.
Good evening. I am Gwen Dankovich. I am the current Jackson Township trustee. I was raised on a dairy farm in Jackson Township, and I've lived in Jackson Township for the last 32 years. I'm a registered nurse. I have a bachelor's degree from Indiana University. My passion has always been community. I worked in home health for 16 years. My primary territory was Southern
righty, we have a great group of candidates here, so I'm going to start off with questions, so all you guys put your thinking caps on, and I'll try not to stump you. So, and I'm going to try to read some of your guys' handwriting, so that might be a challenge for me. The first question is going to be to our local candidates, so Craig, if you want to start off, Gwen, if you got some input, you can, but the question is, what is your plan to impact the opioid and mental health crisis, knowing in 2021 we lost over 120,000 to drug poisoning, 85,000 to alcohol use disorder, and 40,000+ to suicide?
Okay, that's perfect for our county. In my
Sure.
personal life and my professional life, I've been able to have relationships with Department of Child Services, with probation and parole, with Meridian, Reed, and Centerstack. Now those are the people that we need to have a team to contact those people in their place of need, whether it's at their home or in the jail. Because I see in my situation as sheriff, what I see is the people who are in trouble and they are chemically addicted, they have issues concerning chemical issues. They're not getting the support they need once they dry out, once they get to a point where they can think on their own. Their support is not there. So I take a model from community corrections, where I also work part-time. And they have a caseload of clients. We can do that same thing with inmates. And when a person, a jail officer, someone outside the jail, someone can contact that person, have a meeting with that person, sit down with them, and find out what they don't have outside this incarceration. Whether it's family, or friends, or work, or what kind of programs they need to make them a better person, a more successful person, and someone who can be part of our society. So I want to have more programs and meet these people where they are and to help them out, not just send them out as soon as the time's up. That person's going to fail. That leads to recidivism, which is a big problem with it. These people are coming back more than once. They come back time and time again. Well, if we don't allow those people to get the help they need, if we have to make the phone calls for them, if we have to set up meetings for them, that's what we need to do. I had a great program that I've been a part of. It was called Policing the Teenage Brain. Teachers get teaching the teenage brain. It opened my eyes completely that your brain is not fully developed until you're 25. Sometimes later than that. But if you look at the ages of these people who are coming into the jail, that's the ages. So we give them a little grace, and all these people, and all these police officers, jail officers, people involved in their care can understand that. Then we can let those people know that they made bad decisions, but they haven't failed. We don't want them to think that they failed, because once they come out, they think they're a failure. Well, they're not. They don't have to be. And I think grabbing people public schools, the mechanisms that they don't have. They need to get those things, and we can provide those things. And as sheriff, I would push for as many programs as we could, and as many grant opportunities that we could to bring people in to talk to these people, to understand them a little bit, for them to understand themselves. That's what I would want, and that's how I think I could help in my position.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Do you have anything to add? So, before you start, I have been given a new set of rules as MC. 2-minute limit. If you see Mr. Blue Hair, that's your 30-second warning. If I start waving this, you're done. That's it. So we got to keep moving. So when he raises, you got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, I'm in a different position. I'm a school nurse, so I do see the mental health problem in the school. I work with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. What I've done to make a difference is I bought a puppy last year, and I love her so much. And I've trained her to be a therapy dog, and she goes to school with me every day. And not only does it make a big difference with students, but the staff seek her out every day just to have 5 minutes with her, and just the loving and the kissing, and it's just very, that's what I've done to help with this, because the mental health, not only with the drug abuse, but their parents being in jail and all that, but also the COVID has really been a strain on the kids. Their grades are down, they can't learn when they're doing this virtual learning, so that's what I've done to help out, because mental health is a big deal right now. It's just almost all the kids are involved.
Great job. You helped make up some of Craig's time. Any of you state candidates, would you like to add to that?
I will.
Go ahead.
I've been married 18 years, as I indicated earlier. One of the things I did quite a few years ago was every time there is a death in the city, I get texted from the department, police department, fire department. Could be death of natural causes, could be death by suicide, unfortunately, death by violent crime, car accident. And when I started getting overdose texts, it was shocking to me. So I know that we're talking about the county right now, but I want to point out to you that this is not a Fayette County problem. This is a Hoosier problem. This is an American problem. And maybe for now it's because it's a smaller county, but we have overdose deaths where I live as well. One of the things that is interesting to me is I've never had a death, overdose death on marijuana. I've never had it. I've had alcohol, I've had cocaine, I've had heroin, I've had pills, I've had a combination of all that. Not one time have I ever seen a person overdose on cannabis. And yet, that's the one drug that we make illegal in Indiana, is the one that really, I think it's pretty much impossible to overdose. And yet, you can go to any pharmacist, you can go on the street, you can buy pills that kill you overnight. In fact, one pill could kill you with the fentanyl going on right now. I think that, I don't want to swap addictions, one addiction for the other, and I'm certainly not advocating for students. I think it should be treated like alcohol, personally. When you turn 21, you should be able to go to a dispensary and buy cannabis. I noticed across the street, they're selling CBD. Delta 8 CBD is a loophole in the law. It gets you high. Did they sell it right across the street? They sell it across the street where I live also. But I think, and I know for a fact in the states that have legalized cannabis, overdose deaths from opioids has dropped dramatically. And granted, people are probably shifting from one habit to another, but at least they're shifting off of the opioids that'll kill you, and they're shifting over to the cannabis that won't kill you, and hopefully they can wean themselves off of cannabis eventually as well. But I'm advocating for legalizing cannabis across the state for a number of reasons: economic development and opioid reduction in deaths. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
For Mr. Blue.
Just trying to keep us on track. Go ahead.
Really fast. The state treasurer's office has resources for your local community to partner with us and get financing for the projects that you want to do as sheriff, as trustee. We can find financing for the projects that you want to do, and we can make your tax dollar dollars work harder in
classroom, I had a student who had a seizure every single day for 5 months. As soon as her parent chose to find her some cannabis, those seizures stopped. So the implications are there that there's a lot of good that can be done. As far as the programs and things for local communities, there are resources and ways that we can write healthcare policy to include mental health and addiction treatment, and not just limit it to the 30 or 60 days where someone is not quite all the way there, because as Chad said, the prefrontal cortex in young people is not fully developed until late 20s. And so when we have this punishment mindset, we don't have that support for them, and that can come from the federal level also. That can come through healthcare policy. That's where we really need to be headed, to take care of people.
We had a great introduction today about this very topic about opiates and opportunities that we can make a difference in our community. The coffee shop is a perfect example of how economics and how opportunities can combat addiction. We don't do that through our criminal justice reform. If we just criminalize it, it doesn't make a difference. It's in and out of the system. We give opportunities to those around us. We also give education to those around us. We help and build up our communities. This is how we combat addictions. Cannabis is a solution that helps from opiate addictions, but there's more than just that. We have to give economic opportunities. We have to allow innovation and freedom within our communities so that nonprofits can thrive, so that things like the coffee shop can thrive, and that the government stays out of the way so that those opportunities exist without hindrance thrown red tape that's needless. So there are a lot of ways that we can do this to our communities and through individuals and individual programs. The criminal justice system has failed in this issue. The war on drugs has failed. We need a change in this area.
All right. The next question. Cindy, this one will be to you to start off with. What is your position on subsidizing solar panels for homeowners?
So, pardon me, I'm a Hoosier with a corn allergy. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Well, I apologize for clearing my throat. So, I love incentivization of alternative energy, and I think it is a path forward. I think it's great for homeowners. I think we need to return to where we can receive money back from power companies if we're providing power from a grid. I think that should be advertised. What I'm not a big fan of is taking maybe a good portion of our land that can be used to grow food and cover crops and things like that for solar fields, because we have plenty of rooftops, we have plenty of parking lots, we have plenty of other structures and places where it would be maybe more appropriate. I think that comes down to local zoning, and I think those are local choices that people would be making. But I support federal programs to incentivize that, to move us forward and end our dependence on oil.
Tom?
Like Cindy, I also support federal programs to incentivize energy reductions, solar panels especially. Drove through a wind farm to get here. I think it's great how we do that in Indiana as well. I think it should be replicated and used more. As mayor of the city of Hammond, I participated 2 times in energy efficiency programs, which is actually a very progressive policy allowed by the state of Indiana. I converted all of our fleet over from gas-powered vehicles to propane-powered vehicles. And there was a lot of skepticism, especially from the police department, who drives their car very fast, and they need to make sure that in the dead of winter, they can get that propane-powered car and they can go as fast as they need to go. And not only was it seamless transition, and we look like geniuses right now with gas at $5 a gallon, my entire fleet is on propane, and propane is much cheaper than gas. So, climate change is real. Let's be honest. We're seeing the West literally dry up before our eyes. I grew up in the West. I grew up in California. My dad lived in Indiana. My mom lived in California, so I was a child of a divorced family. I grew up in California. I remember one wildfire as a kid. One. Now, every summer, there's fires in California, multiple locations, sometimes in the same location twice. So anybody that says climate change isn't real isn't being an honest broker with you, and I don't think they should be representing Hoosiers, quite frankly. Climate change is real, we need to do something about it, and I want to be part of the solution, like Cindy. Thank you.
Solar powers are definitely the way of the future. It's good for the environment, it's good for Americans, it's good for Hoosiers. We can utilize this power and have cleaner energy, and it's something that we should look at. There's other alternatives to it as well, including nuclear. And nuclear has become a lot safer, but the government has gotten in the way of advancing that. So when we talk about energy as a whole, there's a lot of ways that we can preserve our environment while maintaining a cleaner energy. So definitely something we need to look at in Washington, D.C.
Anyone else on this topic? All right, we will move on. So this will go to our state and federal candidates, and whoever wants to go first, I'm fine with that. The question is, what can be done to help ease, oh, this is a good one here, the pain at the pump for Hoosier families. We all knew this one was coming, right? So whoever would like to start off, feel free.
I'll start this one off by saying, as state treasurer, we have a lot of surplus in December, the budget surplus, and also extra unspent ARPA funds. I'm a really matter-of-fact person. I just like to tell you like what it is. We all know we've got to do something to make gas prices go down. Hoosiers have an opportunity to use from either two different sources, surplus or ARPA money. We have the opportunity to have lower prices at the pump. And I am flabbergasted that our legislature has not used either one of those sources to supplement the gas tax and to take prices back down for Hoosiers. I think it's a simple solution. It is a short-term solution. It's not going to fix inflation, but it's going to fix our pocketbooks. And we really need to understand how hard this is hitting our pocketbooks, especially for farmers and workers who travel around the state. We are a very condensed state as far as employment. We're a big state, but you may have one person for a company that covers their region is the entire state, because Indiana is such a rural community, and because a lot of companies don't put the kind of resources into their coverage of the state as they should. So we have people they're covering the entire state for their company. We have farmers who have to pay for the gas for their fields, and gas raises the cost of everything that travels through Indiana, the crossroads of America. And so I really think the Hoosiers have an excellent opportunity to get their gas prices lower. So please contact the legislatures.
So the U.S. House of Representatives did pass a bill to hold oil executives accountable for price gouging. That bill was voted against by every single Republican legislator from the state of Indiana, including Greg Pence, who claims to be an oil executive. So I think there's a little conflict of interest there, and I think we need a little more legislation like that to protect consumers and hold companies who are using excuses of the pandemic and whatever they can come up with, inflation, to further gouge us and our hard-earned money, and then give their CEOs big parachute payouts. So, and that's happening. So that's one of the things that I would totally support and vote. I would have voted in favor of that, and it did pass, but we need to replace these legislators who keep voting against what is good for us.
Well, in this room right now, we'll take an extra $1 per gallon off the price of gas, if they could take it, right? And it would go down to a horrible $4 a gallon instead. However, right now, when we're looking at the price of gas across the street, $5. About $1 every gallon of your pump is taxes. Federal sales taxes, which President Biden is talking about resetting right now for the rest of the year, and the rest is state sales taxes. About 75 cents a gallon. And the supermajority has been approached by us, the Democratic Party, by legislators in the Democratic Party, and asked if they would suspend the gas tax across Hoosier State for the rest of the year. Our highway trust fund is at an all-time high. With the federal money that flowed into Indiana right now, what usually funds that trust fund is the tax and gas. With the ARP and the infrastructure plan that's flowing through Indiana right now, we don't need to worry about that fund for the rest of the year. So why not give Hoosiers a break? $1 a gallon is a lot of money. You can save $15 a gallon, $15 for every fill up you do. However, that doesn't fit with the Republican philosophy. The Republican philosophy is this: it's Joe Biden's fault. They don't want to talk about the war. They certainly don't want to talk about the executives with their multi-million-dollar bonuses. They don't want to talk about the fact that we're just coming out of the pandemic. They don't want to talk about the land issues and all the checks we sent to every American and their spending. They don't want to talk about any of that. It's much simpler to do this. It's his fault. Todd Young's doing that as well. And it's not truthful. And he's certainly not trying to take care of the problem. And when people, if you have that type of person working for your company, somebody that wasn't being truthful with you, somebody that wasn't trying to solve problems with you, you would fire that person. That's why Todd Young needs to be fired in November. He's not doing his job. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
This is a great topic because it affects all Hoosiers, it affects your wallet. And it's something really interesting because Todd Young actually used an example that I used a month previously. It's on my Facebook, but ultimately the gas tax is suspending it. He called it Band-Aid for a chest wound. And I had actually said those same words a month before. What's interesting is both Todd Young and the Democrats don't have solutions for this issue. I keep hearing from the National Democrat Party, look, it's not us as a nation. It's the whole world. We're all suffering. Nobody's fault. It's not Biden's fault. It's the whole world's fault. And then tonight I hear, no, it's Todd Young's fault. Washington can fix this. If he hasn't fixed this in 12 years, why is it not fixed? It's a lot of finger pointing. But we need solutions. Did you know that not only are we taxing our gas, but that sales tax is on top of that gas tax. So you're literally getting taxed on top of your tax. Does that make sense to anybody in this room? No. We need to suspend it. We need not just a holiday, but we need to suspend this ludicrous taxation. It hurts Hoosiers, it hurts the wallets, it hurts farmers, it hurts truckers, and it hurts every single occupation, and most importantly, it hurts your wallet. So yeah, if Democrats are serious about a tax reduction, I'm on board with working across the aisle on that. But they have to be serious, and we have to get it done.
Anybody else on this topic? If not, we will move on. All right, the next question is, all right, we'll start with you, Tom, on this one. All right, why do we not point out how Senator Young and Braun have voted? Is the question.
On the hard vote.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
If I could just add a real quick.
I didn't see that part of it. My apologies.
Our local paper just weekly come out on Wednesday. Front page, local fire department wants this $884,000 fire truck, which they probably need, but they want to use ARPA money. Dave Young and Ron both vote against ARPA.
Yes, sir.
But yet it's helping our communities. I think as a party and as candidates, I just think we need more vote.
Agreed.
You know,
I totally-
and not just tonight, not just tomorrow, all the way to November.
That's part of my normal stuff speech. We're limited to that 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
But no, my normal Trump speech, stump speech, ARP is $1 billion for the state of Indiana. The infrastructure bill was $7 million for the state of Indiana. When you send me to Washington, D.C., one of my main jobs, defending America, defending the Constitution, bringing money back home so we can fix our infrastructure, so we can make our environment cleaner, make our infrastructure work better, make our broadband connections better, so that you can get cell phone signals across the state of Indiana when you're driving, right? There's money built in the ARP for that. There's money built in the infrastructure for that, and talk about voting against it. But I guarantee you, when you're cutting the ribbon on the fire station, Sir Todd Young's going to show up, right? And he's going to be here like smiling with a big smile, trying to fool you into thinking that he actually support. He didn't support that. He didn't support infrastructure, and as such, he should not be allowed to cut the ribbon. And we need to remind Senator Young, when he does come to Connersville, and he tries to fool Connersville voters into thinking he supported this brand new firehouse, he did it. Thank you for the question.
Another great question, but as we look at this issue, why are we sending politicians to Washington to bring back our money? That money should stay within our state. If we're talking about tax reform, we need more money within our state to support things like fire. We shouldn't have to go to Washington to support our fire stations. That should be done within our own communities. But the wasteful spending in Washington, they just keep wanting more and more of your funding. And then they say, well, come to us if you need your fire station supported, if you need a road supported. No, that's not how it should work. Your taxes should stay within your communities and support the fire stations in your communities, support the roads in your communities. Politicians should not have to go to Washington to fight for that money.
To answer your question on voting, Greg Pence has voted against Hoosiers at almost every term. So he's voted against affordable insulin prices. He's voted against the formula rescue plan. He's voted against veterans who were exposed to toxic substances. I mean, he just keeps voting against Hoosiers, and he's voted against every piece of the federal rescue plans and ARPA and the infrastructure bill. So when Mayor Tom says they're saying that they're smiling, cutting the ribbons while they're trying to, put a stick in spoke, they really are. And you're right, we need to call more attention to this. I know my campaign has been shouting about this on social media, and we need to get this out there more. So we'll be putting out a lot more as far as, in fact, I've got it in my pocket, my phone right now. Everything that Pence has voted against that would have helped Hoosiers.
Everything that Tom and Cindy have been saying is exactly why I ran for office, is because we need to get Democrats excited to vote. We need to tell them what these people really are doing, what they're voting for and voting against that doesn't serve Hoosiers. That is why I'm on the ballot. That is why I'm so excited to run. Like I said before, I know the treasurer's office isn't that sexy. I don't make a lot of policy, but it's so exciting to be a Democrat right now because we are on the cusp of being able to show people what Republican leadership has done for the last 10, 12, 20 years between Washington and Indiana. It really is time for a change, and I'm just honored to be on the stage with these amazing people.
All right. Anyone else on that topic? Probably not any of our locals. Okay. State and federal people, we'll start with you on this one. How can there be common sense gun reform without also infringing upon the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans?
So I am a teacher. I also grew up in a hunting family. I mean, I'm from Indiana, right? So how can you grow up in Indiana really and not grow up in a hunting family? So I learned to shoot gun at an early age. But in 1976, when I was learning to shoot a gun, that came with safety, that came with instruction, that came with a whole lot of things that none of the kids in my classroom were getting, even though they had guns at home. And so the Second Amendment is about, yes, a well-regulated militia, but there's that regulation piece in there, there's that safety piece in there. I've also been a teacher who has had to take kids and get them to a place, maybe it was a room like this. Actually, we had a lot of glass like this behind us. Big plate glass though. And we had a guy robbing a bank robbing a bank next door to where our school was. So we had to shelter in place. I have all of these plate glass windows. So I have these 14-year-olds who are terrified because they know what this means. They've seen the news. They know where to hide. They know where they can't hide. And we have to find a place to go. So in these regulations, these kids know keep them safer. It's not going to keep them completely safe, or any of us. But it will make it more difficult for people to just go out and buy something quickly and then do some real damage. And I think that's the unfortunate part that people miss. We have an entire generation of school kids who are terrorized from doing these drills because we don't have these gun safety and regulatory pieces in place.
Mentally healthy people don't murder. Our Second Amendment rights are important. Our forefathers set it up as a checks and balances system. It was the check and balance that they gave to you directly to make sure our government ran properly. I am a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe that yes, well-regulated means that we have to maintain and understand the discipline of guns. I understand that it also says do not infringe on this. There's a reason that they did not want the government itself to infringe on your rights. That's because they believe that power belongs with the people. And that's something that's very important. When we think about governments all over the world and how they operate, most governments operate from top down. When our forefathers set up our country, they wanted the power to belong to the people. They wanted your voice to be heard, and they wanted you to be able to defend your rights. So, when we talk about the other issue on this, which is the issue that's the heart of the matter, that violence, none of us want to see violence. None of us want to see our kids suffer, or hurt, or have harm. But we have to talk about that mental health capacity part of it. How do we support our children? How do we support those who need help? Violence has gone down the last 30 years, statistically. The only 2 years that it went up during that 30-year time was during COVID. Innovation is an important part of mental health. If Hoosiers and Americans don't see opportunities, they turn to crime. We have to give them opportunities and innovation. We have to allow them easy access to mental health facilities, and we have to get them the support that they need, including defending the rights of everybody, and medical rights. Those are your rights. So yes, I am a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe there's a reason why that the government wanted the people to have the power.
Well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of the free state, the right to keep and bear arms and not be infringed. Well-regulated militia, regulation. I hear the argument a lot, coming from the other side, that it's the Second Amendment, you can't pass any laws that infringe on people's rights. And that's not true. Because we have a more important amendment called the First Amendment. Right to speech, right to religion, peacefully assemble. And we pass laws all the time that deal with the First Amendment. For instance, you can't drive a U.S. Supreme Court justice, that's in the news right now. You can't say, I want to peaceably assemble with my weapons outside Justice Kavanaugh's house. That's against the law. And you got arrested for that. That's the First Amendment issue. We can regulate the Second Amendment. And I want to point out, I have this big card in my pocket at all times. I'm a lifetime permit to carry weapons in the state of Indiana, and I do, for self-protection. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I don't believe our forefathers intended the Second Amendment to give us the right to slaughter fellow Americans. Things were a lot different when we passed the Second Amendment. Muskets were loaded one at a time, right? We didn't have an army. We were surrounded by enemies, Native Americans at the time, and we were worried about the French, and we were worried about the British. All right? There was a reason that they passed the Second Amendment at the time. I think, and I don't know the forefathers, I don't think anybody in this room does, but I think that the forefathers could see America in 2022, when our kids are going to school and getting killed, and when we're going to church and getting killed, and when we're going shopping and getting killed. I think our forefathers would have said, hey, of course you can have regulation. We're not going to eliminate the Second Amendment, but having reasonable regulation, like background checks, like red light laws, like having a discussion about AR-15s. You can't even have the discussion nowadays. Oh no, I can't have that discussion, says Todd Young. Todd Young took $3 million from the NRA. He doesn't want to talk about guns because he took $3 million from the NRA. For what? For nothing. They want nothing from it. When our kids get killed in school, they want nothing from it. When you get killed in church, keep it the same, God. I will never take money from the It's an explosive combination of those three issues. So thank you for the question.
Anyone else on this topic?
I think I better.
I was going to say, I was going to suggest that I think you probably better.
Those are good points. I would push for discussion. We need more discussion. There is an obvious problem. I don't know what the answer is. I know what I would like to see is a higher penalty on recklessness. Recklessness, like when
I'll give you a minute.
a weapon is left unsafe and it's used in a crime. A weapon is given away and used in a crime. A weapon is used in one crime. I would push to have those instances hit harder when a weapon is used for crime. I would think that needs to be a higher escalator and a higher penalty. As for the AR-15s and how we determine that someone is not mentally able to have a weapon, I totally agree, but I don't know how we police that. I'm at a loss of how we police that, but it definitely needs some discussion, and I would be pleased to enter in on that discussion and tell whatever I know about law enforcement, what we run into, what we see, how we see guns used, and the people who use them.
So, real quick, before we move on to the next question, I have agreed to a 60-second rebuttal, so go ahead.
We can probably rebuttal, but it's more of a question. And it was specifically addressed with the First Amendment and the right to free speech. And he said we regulate it. My question is, and it's more of a great concern, is when does that stop? Can we attack our political enemies with infringing on the First Amendment? And I'll give a very real example that happened in Indiana. In Hammond, where he's the town, where he's mayor, he said, you cannot have profanity on a flag flying. So he wanted speech regulated, okay? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But this very week, on his own campaign page, he used profanity multiple times. So when is it used against your political enemies? And when is it used for freedom? I would like to err on the side of freedom.
As a tax secretary, but
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've been doing town hall. This is like the 20th stop. That's the first attack we've ever had. So the congeniality has been tossed out. Several years. This gentleman was flying a flag across the street from the park with a bunch of little kids that said F Biden. And I asked the gentleman nicely, do you take it down? There's kids across the street. And it's our city. And he said, no, I'm not going to take it down. And we came to a loggerheads over that issue. This is actually one of the early cases of this happening. I don't think it's appropriate to be flying a flag with the F-word across the street from a park. And I'm the mayor of the city, and mayors are paid to make tough decisions. All right? I support the First Amendment wholeheartedly. I took a class on it when I was at the University of Notre Dame, when I was in law school. I understand it very well. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Indiana, so I understand what the amendments mean. However, when you hang a flag across the street from a beautiful park like this, and you say, oh, look at that house over there, it says F Biden. That's wonderful for your kids to see. Any mayor worth their salt would have done that. And anybody with responsibility like that would understand that. And I think it's sometimes when you hear people talk about what they're going to do when they get someplace, they talk about a lot of things that are never going to happen. Because if I'm lucky enough to be your U.S. Senator, I'm going to be part of a system that I'm walking into. And as much as I want to change that system, it's going to be hard. Especially if you're a third-party candidate. And you really have no allies whatsoever when you get to Washington, D.C. So I take it with a grain of salt when I hear candidates from another third party that say, when I get there, I'm changing everything. God bless you if you can do it. I don't think you can do it, right? So anyway, thank you.
Okay, this is for everyone. What is your position on the Supreme Court decision on Roe? We can start with anybody. It doesn't matter to me.
I'll take this one first. Obviously, personal issue, not because they're a state issue, not really anyone's issue except a personal issue. And that is personally where I stand on it. It's a woman's choice, and it's a personal choice. And if I had, I do have a daughter. If I had a daughter that wanted to make that choice, I do have a daughter who may someday have to make that choice. I want her to be able to have safe and legal options.
So, it's a healthcare issue. It is between a person and their physician. Full stop. Healthcare decision between a person and their physician. Overturning Roe will not stop abortions. It will only stop legal abortions, and people will die. Pregnant people will die.
I grew up with my single mom and my two sisters, and I've always been pro-woman, and I'm also pro-choice. And I've managed 18 years as mayor without ever having to talk about this issue, because mayors really don't deal with this issue very often. I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I'm talking about it obviously. One of the first things I learned in Notre Dame Law School was about something called stare decisis. It's a Latin term that means to stand on decided cases. It's a fundamental part of American jurisprudence. It's consistency. So that if you go to one court in Indiana, you go to another court in Ohio, you go to another court in Kentucky, there's consistencies in the verdicts you're going to receive in these three different areas, right? Stare decisis is so important, and it's being tossed out on its ear right now by this current Supreme Court all over the justices' ideological philosophy. It doesn't matter that Roe versus Wade's been the law of the land for 50 plus years to them, and I tell you, it matters to me. Because I'm 53 years old. This has been the law of the land my entire life. And it's not going to work, though, by just saying, okay, today it's legal, and literally, next Tuesday, it could be illegal. And I mean, God bless the people who are making this decision, but it's going to be chaos across the state of Indiana. It's going to be chaos across the country. It's naive to think that you can snap your fingers and something that's been legal for my entire life is suddenly going to be not legal tomorrow. It's just not going to work well.
My campaign from the very start said politicians should not act as physicians. 4 times since Roe versus Wade was decided, the Democrats have controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And yet they didn't secure the rights of abortion. 4 times the Republicans have controlled Congress, the House, the presidency. And yet very little was done on the pro-life issue. Both parties tend to use this issue to manipulate votes. It's something that I've seen over and over. I've seen candidates get elected on this, but make no change. I am pro-life candidate, but that means I believe that socially we can make a big difference to reduce abortions by giving knowledge, by allowing access to birth control, and multiple ways. But ultimately, with Roe versus Wade, we shouldn't be making these medical decisions from Washington, D.C. Medical decisions should be between that woman and her physician. Thank you.
Anyone else on this topic? Nope. All right, we shall move on. All right, so school violence, public event violence. How is Fayette County? Help me out with this, Sue.
Prepared.
Oh, okay, prepared. What do we have to do differently? Craig, you might start this one out. So she's asking about school violence. Is Fayette County prepared, and what do we have to do differently? So you might talk a little bit about our SRO system, maybe what your vision is to maybe enhance that a little bit and stuff, to get us more prepared. Okay. So that's her question.
All right. Well, in my years on the police department, here, we train for those mass target situations twice that I can remember in 22 years. That's not nearly enough. Not only do we need to train with each law enforcement agency, but they need to train together. If something like that happens, we are all going to respond together. So we need to train together. We have had this in-house training idea for quite a few years. I don't know if it's just where they didn't like training with the city or the timing was wrong, but we need to make the timing happen. It has to be done. There has to be communication between the sheriff, the state police, and the city police. And I worked for the city police for a number of years. I think that's built in with me. So I think we need more training, a lot more training. And the SROs need to be trained more and better. Our current SROs are not members of NASRO, and they offer so much training, it's unbelievable. I also have contact with Wayne County, who offers a lot of training to the SROs, and we can either go by their model, or they have offered to come down and train with us. So there's multiple ways we could help with that.
Anybody else on that topic? If there's not, I'll kind of interject here. Most people may not know, but in Fayette County, in our elementary schools, we only have one SRO that rotates among all of our schools. So if someone was and wanted to attack one of our schools, it wouldn't be that hard to figure out the schedule of that rotation. So Craig and I have talked, and I know part of Craig's plan is to enhance that presence so that our SROs would have a much more stronger presence in our schools and such, and we need that. So Sue, thank you for that question. It's a very important topic.
Somehow, where I am a current SRO at Kingdom City, somehow little Western Wing is able to fund 2 police officers, one for the elementary, one for the high school, and middle school. So I believe there's a way to fund some more police officers. Not coverage is the most basic thing that we need. There's a police officer in Everton at the elementary school. What's going to happen if there's a problem at Fayette Central?
Yeah, you're talking a good 10-15 minute drive.
It's going to be all the other police officers. Right. So we need to really sit down, reevaluate that SRO program, and find a way of getting more police officers involved in that, assign them there, or hire police officers specifically for that duty. This year, they opened up Cops Fast programs for SROs only. Cops Fast was years ago where they could get 50% of police officers' wages paid and the benefits for a period of 3 years. Well, that is a program that needs to be investigated.
Yeah. We
just need police officers in the schools, and there's 100 reasons, and I can talk to you about it later. 100 reasons why that police officer needs to be in that school, and not only because of security.
Absolutely. All right, so this is the last question. coming your way. I do invite you all to mingle when it's all over. I know some of you got long drives. Grab some snacks, get you a drink, a bottle of water, whatever for the road. I'm going to give you all, now I may get fired wherever Drew's at, I don't know where he's at, but I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes on this last question. So Mr. Blue Hair is going to still give you the warning at 1.5 minutes. So I'd like you to answer the question. Maybe take that last 60 seconds to give us a closing statement. Give your appeal to why we should vote for you. Just kind of give us that last punchline or whatever. So 2.5 minutes. Sorry, Drew, but you gave me the talking stick. So here's your last question, guys. It's a good one. So what's obviously we all know about inflation. So what is your guys' plan? Local candidates, state candidates, but what's your plan to help voters and people at everyday level to combat this issue with inflation and rising costs in their everyday lives? So whoever wants to start with that, have at it.
I'm going to start with that. I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. I'm going to talk a little more about inflation. And I do think the name of the game is job creation in Indiana. And that's going to keep jobs local. It's going to improve our infrastructure here locally so that supply chain issues don't happen as often. And it's going to keep us relying on American resources for what Americans need. So that's really the name of the game, is creating jobs here in Indiana. The Treasurer's Office can help with that because we have so much money invested in these state funds that help with retirement savings and help with college education and help with investing local government money to earn more interest. All of those things are going to bring money back into your community that you can use for the projects that you need in your community that are going to create jobs. We can also help you invest in ARPA funds. We can help you find financial advisors to figure out how to allocate funds to best meet that list of needs that you have. Everybody's got this list. It's this, a mile long. What are the top priority things? So I know you gave me a little extra time, and I just want to.
You're doing great on time.
A little bit more of my county government story and why I
Sure.
be a state treasurer is that a long time ago I graduated from IU in journalism. I started working. I got a degree in journalism. And I started working in marketing and graphic design. And I had 2 kids, but I found myself in a not safe situation. And so I was not safe. I was not free. And I had 2 little kids. And my boyfriend was arrested, and I was home free. So I decided that I never wanted to become safe ever again. However, I didn't have a place to live. So I was on the phone with my friends. I was losing my breath, holding my breath as I tell the story. I was on the phone with my friends. I was living in basements and spare bedrooms. And, working jobs to get us through. I was a seamstress. I worked for Mary Kay, and I sold furniture. And then I discovered county government. And county government is so close to the people. It's so close to serving communities, and it's so close to the community needs. It can partner with some community organizations and help people where they're at. And that is my first love. And that is the kind of service I would like the state treasurer's office to give to all Hoosiers. So thank you.
So, as far as inflation, one of the things that's not really well known is that we have a lot of wage stagnation, and you see it, some of you might even see it, my dad sees it in his Social Security. It's not even up to the cost of living. And so, we really need to look at wage stagnation and that, its role in inflation too. So I'll kind of leave some more for other people to talk about, because a lot of it is also that corporate greed I was talking about with oil executives. And there's a lot of our large corporations who are taking advantage of situations that we have in our country and in the world to raise those prices to produce record profits. And that's all on the record. So I think there's a lot of things at play. two offices. I was a part of Jared Polis's office. He's now the governor of Colorado. And when he became the governor of Colorado, I went to Eddie Bernice Johnson's office. And she was the first female chairwoman in the House of the Science, Space, Technology Committee. So I was kind of in heaven, right? I was in this nerdy, geeky place where I could just play at everything. I got to play with NASA, I got to play with National Science Foundation. And I fell in love with looking at how policy changes people's lives for the better.
This is a great question. Inflation is hurting every Hoosier's wallet. And maybe I was a little harsh earlier, but I won't reserve my criticism on this because it's Todd Young's fault. Inflation is something that Washington does not understand. The Federal Reserve keeps printing more and more money using Keynesian economics, which really, in layman's terms, is kicking the can down the road. But it's making your dollar less and less valuable. So yes, Todd Young is at fault here. The way he spends in deficit spending and the way that Washington currently is on track is not going to give the same economic opportunities to the future generations out. I have two nieces. I go over there almost weekly and we have tea parties. She asked me what kind of tea you want. I said green tea. She says, no, I'm going to give you pink tea. Okay? But I want her to have that opportunity to thrive in an economic situation. So yes, Todd Young is terrible, and he's terrible for your wallet. So let's fix this issue, and let's bring back reasonable spending in Washington, which cuts that deficit and stops the Fed from printing so much money at a ridiculous rate.
Thank you, James, for the apology. I accept, and I apologize as well. We've got a whole tour done at the attacking English. I didn't want to start. I remember the last time. So. Inflation is a problem across the world right now. Price of gas in the European Union is close to $10 a gallon. Inflation is a problem over there, as well as other countries. I'm not sure if those countries are blaming the president for inflation or not, but they certainly can't blame our president. You know, I'm a finance major, undergrad from Purdue before I went to law school, and I learned a lot about economics, macroeconomics, and whoever the president of the United States was going to be, whether it be Trump or whether it was going to be Biden, they were going to be dealing with inflation. Because the Fed did print massive amounts of money. We did do massive amounts of deficit spending. I agree with James's answer on that. Supply chain issues coming out of the pandemic. And the fact that we were sitting at home ordering more than we ever did over Amazon. So the fact is, whoever was the president was going to be unlucky enough to have to deal with these inflationary pressures. And I'm going to be talking about this on the campaign trail. And I also agree with James that Todd Young has not done anything to help Hoosiers deal with the inflation. And then whatever we do is going to be a band-aid. Because inflation eventually is going to be fought by the Fed. It's going to come back and on acceptable levels. But until that time, wouldn't it be nice to have a band-aid if you're bleeding? I would take an extra $1 off of every gallon of gas right now. And yet Todd Young hasn't spent any energy on reducing the federal taxes on the gas we pay or convincing his colleagues in the supermajority that a gas tax holiday could happen in Indiana as well. We don't need the money for the rest of the year in a holiday tax bill because of the infrastructure. So, if you're frustrated about what's going on in America right now, I agree with James. You got to look at the gentleman that's been in Washington, D.C. for 12 years, Todd Young. What has he done for you in 12 years? Are you better off now than you were 12 years ago when you walked into Washington, D.C.? I don't think so. And I tell you what, if I had an employee like that to work for my company, I would let that person go. So, it's time to fire Todd Young. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
It costs quite a bit of money to run the jail and to have law enforcement. And what I would have to do, and what I would expect you to want me to do, is to seek a lot more training and grant opportunities for us to provide the services that we need to provide, and to be very selective at what we do provide. And I would go over that with a fine-tooth comb because everything else is going up. What it's going to cost to keep that person in jail is going up. And that's going to be, it's just the way it is.
appeal to the people? You've been awful quiet.
That's me. Anyway, I listed several qualities that I think people should look at when they go to the polls for what they're interested in. Anytime you take out somebody that's learned the job, you're going to go back because it's a big learning curve. There's a lot of things that have to be uploaded to the state. There's budgets that's got to be learned how to do, and it takes time to get all the information to even be able to do the submission and to answer back. But it takes a lot getting it all set up so that you can do the job. And I think I have all those qualities. I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and with the little bit, I'm going to be learning about the budgets because we're starting to work on that right now. Trying to get more money into Jackson Township. I don't know what all it's going to take, but I know we're short $4,000 for our fire department. We've got it, that we can push there, but it's not coming from the tax money this year. So we're short on that. We have less than $2,000 for the poor relief, now called township assistance, and how much help we can. They're having to run all these places and fill out all those applications. Why make it so difficult on them? But that's why I love being involved in the community, and I love community, and I would really like to be trustee for the next 4 years.
All right, I want to say thank you to all of you candidates. Best of luck. Please don't be a stranger to Fayette County. Even once you're elected, please remember us. We do have a county fair coming up. The end of July, running into the 1st of August. Come join us, or at least get some of your literature to us. We'd be happy to hand some of that stuff out for you guys. Those of you that's here, get some snacks on your way out. Get some of these candidates' literature. Take it with you. Share it with some of your friends and family. I think the McDermott campaign live stream, maybe some of the others did. Search their Facebook. Share their live streams. That's the way we're going to win these races. It's by canvassing social media, by spreading the word, by promoting these people and letting people know the true story about these are people that want to fight for you, and these are people willing to roll their sleeves up and get to work. So thank you, everybody.